Welcome to Payroll Setup Lesson number 18 on attaching worker IDs to payroll. As you can see from here, I'm in the Job Master Pro on the main menu. What I'm going to do is click into the Workers Setup screen. And as I come in here, what I'm going to do is find a previously set up worker. Now that I have payroll set up, I can attach the worker ID that's used for job costing to the payroll ID. So after I bring up the worker, I can find his related payroll ID in this payroll name drop down. When I select it, I press enter and I'm brought down to the payroll pay rate. So when I open this window up, it shows all the pay rates that this person is set up with in payroll. Now keep in mind that with worker IDs, you can set up multiple worker IDs per worker. So if they have different charge out rates for different types of work, whatever, you can have multiple worker IDs in here for a single worker. Now as I press enter on the pay rate, notice that it shows me that my pay rate that comes right out of payroll there. Now as I press enter through here, I can add more information that accumulates into the cost rate. For example, a non-labor rate can be added that is above and beyond your normal payroll burden that you're seeing right here. You'll see more about this in a moment. But the non-labor rate is simply a dollar figure that can be added to each hour that this worker, say, drives one of your trucks, for example. A good average cost that it costs contractors per hour to have somebody drive a truck is $1.50 an hour for insurance and gas, etc. So if you wanted to add that, that can also be separated out in some of your time card and job cost reports as well. So as I press enter through these fields, you can see that my cost rate is being accumulated based on the pay rate, non-burden, or what we call non-labor rate, and then your total burden. Now let's talk about the burden for a moment. If we click into the burdens tab for this employee, you can see the burdens that came over from payroll for this worker. So if you wanted to add more burdens to this right side of the screen, you can double click on them over here and then they will appear over here, and notice that it automatically increased the total burden for that worker with that new burden. So that's the whole idea, is to get the burden rate where you want it. Now if you don't see the burdens in here, let's say this is the first time you're doing this, then you want to run two little features. If you click into the burdens button on the toolbar, there is an import payroll burdens button. If you click that, you will get all the burdens that are set up in payroll that can be used throughout your worker ID setups here. Once you do that, they'll be available in this tab, but then you can also go up to the edit menu bar option and say import payroll burdens, which will do it just for this specific worker so that their burdens show up down here at the lower right. So you have your choice. You can manually select them over here from the left and put them on the right, or you can always import them directly into the right side of the screen. And you can always add more burdens from the left side of the screen into the right, thereby adding them into this worker's burdens. Now, let's take a look at what this does in the payroll side of things. Now let me resave this. Now that we've changed the worker ID setup there by linking it to payroll, we want to resave that record. Now I'm going to hotkey back over to payroll for a moment and show you in the Timecard Entry now what linking the two does together. If I go into the Timecard Entry and I bring up that worker, I want to enter some hours. The first thing I'm going to do is click on this Save Hours to Job checkbox, so there's a check mark in it. That means that I'm going to want to work on the right side of the screen. So as I press enter through here, and enter his hours. I can enter them job by job too for certified reporting, let's say. I may need to do that. So as I select the type of hours, I'm brought to the right side of the screen. Now this should have shown me the actual worker ID it was attached to. So I probably needed to exit payroll and come back in to reset that, since I just flipped back and forth between the two programs. But this is the key here. Once they're linked together, you've got your payroll information and you've got your job cost information at the right here. So as we start entering hours that these payroll hours are related to, you can see it brings over the job type for the job as a visual reminder as to what type of job you're posting to. You also have your job number lookup, which you can enter by clicking this blue lookup. But I knew my job number, so I'm just pressing enter through the fields here. Now, just as I entered the 10 hours of straight time over here on the left side of the screen for payroll, Cobra is assuming that I want to post the same way to job cost, but you can override it on this side. So if you're entering overtime hours on the left side of the screen, you don't have to post them to job cost as overtime hours. You can override them with straight time hours, which is cool. So you have that flexibility, which is why we have two parts to this time card entry screen. Now the page, if you're into in-depth job costing, you know that you can job cost anything, including your labor hours, to certain pages or sections, divisions, phases of a job by using pages. So if you wanted to do that, you can simply enter the page number for this posting and just enter right through. Now the billable flag will always remain on, and you have to check it off if you don't want these hours billed out to the customer. So job cost would be updated for these hours, but they would not show up on any customer invoices. So that's an option that you have at this point. And as I press enter, I'm encouraged to save the hours, so I'll just press enter on the save hours button. So now what's happened is I can see that those 10 hours went to this job and even this page of the job. So if I went right into my job labor screen, I would see those hours there. So they can be billed out immediately, even if payroll isn't going to be run for a few days. That ends the lesson on attaching worker IDs to payroll.